Elon Musk is talking about charging new users on Twitter. Now you have Facebook, also called Meta, who wants to now start charging businesses to be on Facebook as well. Don't think for a second these apps are going to be free. Isaac Hayes III, founder of Fanbase, joins us right now. Isaac, here's what's interesting here. These social media apps have been getting killed when Apple made changes to their phone, allowing people to stop being tracked. That's how they were making their billions. Now these companies are freaking out. They got to figure out how to find that money. And so they're going to start charging folk to be on these platforms.
Absolutely. I think when Apple and Google allow users to opt out of being tracked when they're not inside the applications, that prevented a lot of these companies from being able to sell data and increase ad revenue. So for that very reason, a lot of people, including myself, have opted out of being tracked while I'm not using specific apps. And so Instagram and Meta are finding a way to offset that cost with this new Meta Verified for Business. That's pretty pricey if you look at it, Roland.
Absolutely. And here's the deal. When we talk about this, what happened here, I remember when that happened, because what the folk realized was, well, look, we got the power here. So Apple's all about privacy. And when Facebook was getting crushed on Capitol Hill when it came to selling of data, when they put that became basically a poison pill for Facebook, and they've been reeling ever since. And so now you have this new deal, and it's starting in Australia and New Zealand, and they're going to be charging what, $14.99 a month for businesses?
I'm gonna tell you these prices: $14.99, $44.99, $119.99, and $349.99.
Yeah, the max plan is $350 a month.
Yeah, and I mean, you're paying for more visibility, which should tip people off to the fact that your content is being suppressed. Meaning, like, if they're making you pay to be seen, then they're basically charging you to already be visible to the people that already follow you, and they're going to allow you to put links in your profile, other things like that. So I just found it extremely interesting. But this is just speaking more to the fact that I think these platforms are trying to offset the cost of losing ad revenue, and they're so ad revenue dependent, which is why this shift towards subscription-based services in social media is changing. And this is kind of like a middle point. This is like a way to kind of lead people into where Fanbase already is, because this is basically a subscription. You're basically subscribing to have more visibility on the platform. And that's what Meta is doing with this program.
Lauren.
So Isaac, don't you think the subscription model at some point, and I'm talking to somebody who has a StreamYard platform, is going to wear everybody out? Because now everything is becoming subscription. Everything is becoming pay me every month, pay me something every month, and that's starting to get old real fast. That starts to add up, as you know. So when do you think the breaking point of the subscription model business may be?
I don't see that. I think that there's still a wide community of people that want to pay for content. It just depends on what you're paying for. It depends on what you're subscribing for. Because when you subscribe to Netflix every month, you're paying $20, $30 a month to subscribe to every single piece of content that is on Netflix. And you might not watch 99% of it, right? But if you could subscribe to someone for $2.99 a month and get an entire network of content specifically from that person, then you would pay for that and get rid of Netflix. And so I think subscription fatigue is absolutely real, but I think as subscription-based services become more available and more widely known, there will be niche communities that subscribe to specific things that actually people are more interested in. A lot of, like with media now and television, you're casting a wide net. A place like Disney Plus or Hulu or Netflix is casting a wide net, right? As opposed to narrowing down on the very, very finite a group of individuals that are interested in horror films or comedy specials or, documentaries. And so I think that's going to be something that's extremely important. And then with the advent of AI, I really feel like in real life content, which is called IRL, which we see a lot of the young streamers doing, is going to be the real television, which is reality. Like reality is going to be, the most watched type of content, more so than pre-recorded, filmed, expensive content that people are putting out nowadays.
Thanks.
Well, their reality is, I don't want to think about that. All right, Reese.
I guess, can you talk a little bit about undemocratic our information is becoming. I think people have this false sense of when they search for something, they are getting results based on the merit of the content that pops up, as opposed to algorithms starting to manipulate and throttle different websites or different content because of things like you mentioned, subscriptions, paying for advertisements and things of that nature. Can you talk about the information and the awareness that needs to happen around that issue of social media?
I think most users are really unaware that these platforms are in competition with them. Every single person that's on Instagram or Facebook, the app is working against you because you yourself are a network. Every single person that has a social media profile, television network. And if a company wanted to advertise with you and you could consistently reach 1 million people, 10 million people, 100 million people, you could just charge for people to post content on your page, and the platforms know that. So they actually suppress your content and squish it down, and it forces the companies to do things like advertise with them. So this is just another way to continue to force advertisers to either do business directly with or for the visibility that they should already have.
So for instance, Reese, right, Beyonce has 319 million followers on Instagram. The top threshold for any cable network is 100 million. But with cord cutting, we're now seeing that. So basically, at its height, CNN was in like 105, 110 million homes. That means that Beyonce, her Instagram page alone, is 3 times bigger than CNN was at its height. But if Beyonce goes live right now, she will not have 319 million people watching her, because essentially they capped that sucker. Like you take Cardi B. One night Cardi B went live, and let me just see her followers. Cardi B has 167 million followers. She had almost 100,000 people on. That means that Cardi B was getting barely 1% of her following watching her live. So they ain't gonna never let, if a Beyonce can hit 319 million people, she can make that. That's more people than who watch the Super Bowl. Instagram ain't let her make that money. They gonna make that money. Greg.
Thank you, Roland. And that kind of opens the door to my question, asked out of ignorance. But after years of watching you operate, and after years of Brother Isaac hearing your conversations with Roland and with all of us, and maybe this again, I'm asking out of ignorance, what do you see as the opportunity or opportunities for Black disruptors? Fanbase is free. Black Star Network is free. The idea that crowdsourcing financial support, while the push, as Roland has been doing now for quite some time, to get those advertising dollars with some success, and then continuing to hold out the promise and expectation that success will improve. But what are some of the opportunities for disruption? And like you said, what you said to Lauren about this fatigue, the subscription fatigue, you know more about it. I just feel like maybe like Lauren perhaps feels, if she asked the question at some point, people will get sick of this. But what opportunities are there for the models like Fanbase, like Blacks, like those who are disrupting? Can there be some Black disruption in the midst of this kind of clawing at every penny people have for subscription basis?
I say absolutely. I mean, I think infrastructure is what you're talking about, right? And so for the most part, all these infrastructures, these tech companies are owned by people that are not Black, right? So Roland has the Black Star Network. He's built an infrastructure that's Black owned. Fanbase is a Black owned application, a Black owned social media platform. And the infrastructure is Black owned. The reason why that is important is typically because culture usually creates and modifies and shifts and guides technology in the way that it's headed. What makes things cool, what makes things awesome, what makes things, it sets the trends. But then on the back end, who actually has ownership of that? So my design, Roland's design in building these platforms is that we can also be guides, but also protect our culture in a way that it's not exploited.
There you go.
When advertising is at play, right? And I say this all the time. With a platform like TikTok, right? TikTok wants very, very famous white creators on their platform. because I always say, unfortunately, things built by black people are perceived to be only for black people, but things built by white people are perceived to be for all people. So if I'm dunking coffee, do I want a young 20-something-year-old white girl to be the face of our brand, or a young 20-something-year-old black girl? You want the white girl because the white girl appeals to white people, black people, Asian people, Latino people, all races, right? But if you have a black girl, then most people, white people, might opt out of that advertisement. Other races might opt out of that advertisement because of the girl is black. So we see black culture being appropriated, but then suppressed so that it can't thrive in the same way. So a platform like Fanbase is not going to allow that to happen. Number one, we don't run off advertising. And two, I want to give everybody a voice. So I want to make sure that people understand that Fanbase is not black only, but the fact that I am a black founder, it just means that I understand the inequity that exists, and there will always be a conversation and always be a way that all voices are heard, no matter what race you are, because we're not basing it on trying to suppress people's content to make money. It's a community, and I'm into community building. And so that's really the most important part about this is building a new community for people to be a part of.
And I'll say this here, a perfect example. I saw the news today, go to my iPad, where Tubi, they're launching something called Stubios to fund and stream fan green-lit creative projects. They tapped Issa Rae to mentor aspiring filmmakers. Oh. And again, here's a perfect example. Issa Rae, significant brand, and she has a fan base, but guess what? Tubi wants to bring her on, cutting a check, to drive their value up, but guess what? She doesn't own Tubi. The Fox Corporation owns Tubi. And so what we're talking about here, even when you look at to your question, Greg, and I look at the work that Lauren does, what she's doing with her newsletter, the work that Reese is doing as well, and what you're doing with Karen Hunter and with us with the Black Table on Black Star Network.
Yes.
This is really the hardest thing. And this is the hardest thing. And that is to get black people to decide, do I want to make black people rich, or do I want to be so associated with white folks that I have white validation? See, we just got to put it on the table. We got to put it on the table because there are black celebrities with massive following. And I know this because Isaac and I talked. He's had the numerous conversations, and they are on other social platforms making nothing. But if you say, here's an equity stake, you can come here and make millions. Yeah, but you're not them. Am I lying, Isaac?
I don't think you're lying, but I think we also have to understand, I say this all the time, and people like you, Roland, there are black people in this country that understand that they are not minorities by their energy or their effort or their creativity. And so for me, I'm a person that's never felt like a minority living in Atlanta. And what I mean is, when you grow up understanding that white supremacy runs everything and that you have to fight your way through that, I don't fault the paths that Oprah and Jay-Z take. I don't fight the path that, I understand why, because that's the only thing that they know. They don't. And I mean, we're getting to the point now where you should know. I mean, you're out there, Roland, I'm out there. We should know that we can actually invest in these startups and scale these things to 100, 200, $300 billion companies if we want to, but we have to get past that point. But I think that's hard to tell people to not kind of like stop fighting, right? If there's no villain, then the battle is over, and what do I have to fight? And a lot of people want to be able to fight through white supremacy to gain acceptance, but I've never felt like I had to, so I never did. So that's why I operate the way that I operate with Fanbase.
So that's where we are. So Isaac, first of all, give us an update on your crowdfund.
Man, everybody, I need you guys, everybody who's watching right now, go to startengine.com/fanbase. It's on my shirt if you can see it. And invest in Fanbase and get equity. We're raising $17 million.
Drop lower third, please.
$1 million raised. And there's goals to this. There's like a 5-year plan. I mean, a 3-year plan to this, but our first milestone is the $2.5 million mark that we want people to invest in. And the minimum to invest in Fanbase is $399, and you actually get equity shares, stock. This is not GoFundMe. This is not, Kickstarter. This is actual actual stock options.
And it's also not a fake hemp farm because you actually have a platform, an office, employees, and actual revenue. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I had to go through the SEC multiple times. All of our financials are available online. We actually got a non-review from the SEC, which is a good thing. They trusted our paperwork and all of our due diligence on our company so well that they had no objection with us going ahead and launching this $17 million round. It's significant because I'm very confident that I'm going to scale Fanbase to a $100 billion company. And right now we're valued at $160 million. We've gone from 20 to 50 to 85 to a $160 million company. And I want to continue to do that and build the first of its kind Black-owned social media platform that can be a successor to a TikTok or an Instagram. All these platforms aren't going to last forever. Facebook is not going to last forever. Instagram's not going to last forever. There will always be new platforms that emerge that young people and other cultures migrate to build community. So I tell before you do that, absolutely download Fanbase, use it, come on board, make a profile. It's free to download, free to use, but invest. And that minimum is $399. You get 60 shares at $665 a share. And I think it's an excellent opportunity for people to get on the cap table of a company that's continuing to scale and grow. We almost have 700,000 users. We're in 190 countries on iOS and Android. We've got some really cool functionality launching, especially next week. We got a whole new version of Live launching, so you won't be suppressed. When you go live to everybody that has Fanbase. It won't be capped by your following, so it doesn't matter who's on Fanbase. They'll be able to see your live, not based off your following. It'll be open to anybody. So if you want to DJ, if you want to do makeup, if you want to talk, have conversations or whatever, that's something that we'll be able to do. And because we've reached this $1 million threshold, we'll be able to add RTMP streaming to the platform. So Roland, your show will be able to be streamed on Fanbase coming soon because now we've reached that threshold. So now the Black Star Network and Roland Martin Unfiltered can also be streamed live on Fanbase. And so I'm excited about that. And that's what investing does. It allows us to continue to build the company and scale the company. So go to startengine.com/Fanbase to invest.
And I am excited about that because we stream right now on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, sometimes on Instagram, obviously on YouTube as well, and is reaching folks across the platform. So we definitely want to reach Fanbase community. Isaac, I appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.